great marketing isn't about saying a hundred things once, but about saying one thing 100 times. Large majority of people in the world, 99.999%, have never heard of what you do. And so just repeating who you're for, what you're about, why they should use you over and over and over again is so critical to growing awareness and ultimately sales. The problem is it's really boring to do that. It's mind numbing to create, to try and think of different ways of saying the same thing or taking something that you posted on one platform and posting it on another. And that's where tools like Blaze come in. He wasn't ranking at all on Google before Blaze for SEO. Had been putting out blog posts, but his ranking was in the tens of thousands. It was meaningless. And over the last couple months, he's produced 3,000 blog posts with Blaze. Many of them, we have planning tools that can schedule, as I mentioned, months or even quarters worth of blog posts. So he had everything lined up, was posting consistently, and now ranks on the first page of Google.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Podcast, filled with marketing and leadership tips on launching and growing your business with your host, Deanne Mora.
Today on the podcast, I have the pleasure of welcoming Adam Nathan, founder of Blaze, an AI tool that helps individuals to create personalized content for social media, blogs, newsletters, and websites. Adam is a multi-time tech founder who also launched the workflow software Almanac and has held strategy and tech roles in companies as diverse as Crosby, Varo Money, and Lyft. He holds a Harvard MBA and calls himself a product guy and a business nerd focused on elevating how people work. Adam, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
Glad to have you here. Let's start with your backstory. How did your path evolve to the point of creating Blaze?
Yeah, I'm from New York City, born and raised. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My grandfather started an insurance company. My brother is also a founder of a homeware cookware company. And my parents run a small business together in New York City. So my brother and I grew up kind of around them, successfully really building and scaling their business across the United States, mostly in offline brick and mortar stores. They sell outerwear. But as I entered the workforce, it was also around the same time that the internet started to become really viable as a place where e-commerce could be done. And to this day, my parents still don't have a website, don't do a lot on social media, don't, I think, email with their customers. And for years over family dinners, my brother and I would come home and we would be talking about our businesses and their business. And we would exhort them really for why they hadn't really made the jump to doing business online. And we'd always say things like, oh, it's so easy to build a website. There's Squarespace, or it's so easy to post on Instagram and Facebook. There's great tools like Buffer, or you can set up MailChimp to build lifecycle communication with your customers, because that's what we did all day long in our day jobs. But the reality, I think, is that it's not very easy for a lot of people who aren't professional marketers. My parents are good at many things, but they don't have the skills to be a social media manager or an email marketer. They also don't have the time. They are paying the bills, they're talking to customers, they're developing products. They're not spending their time doing marketing, and marketing is a full-time job, as anyone out there knows. It takes a lot of time to do marketing, and it's essential to do that time if you really want to grow. And I think a lot of small business owners are caught in this trap where they know that in order to increase their revenue or sales, they need to do marketing, but they don't have the time or skills to do so. And for a long time, it was really hard to build technology to do that, because we didn't have technology that could brainstorm ideas and generate content and analyze it until AI. And so the place really came from my own backstory, seeing my parents struggle. And then as we launched the product, just seeing this big opportunity to help hundreds of millions of people out there that are making a bet on themselves and taking a risk on their own idea, to help them really grow and prosper from the internet in ways they couldn't before.
And that's the story that I hear from so many entrepreneurs. Like, just let me run my business. I know what I know. I know my product, I know my service, but all the other things that go around with it are just so challenging. So I'm curious, have your parents tried Blaze, and how did they react to it?
They have tried Blaze. They aren't using it yet, to my consternation, but we're not going anywhere, so there's still more time. But hundreds of thousands of people that aren't my parents have. We launched the product last October, and in the last 15 months, we grew from 0 to $5 million in revenue, like over 30 to 40% month over month growth, just crazy, crazy growth. In a short period of time, we're on track to get to 10 million in revenue by the end of this quarter. And so I think, with what we've built, we found a real market opportunity. A lot of companies, don't really focus on small businesses or prosumers because they think they're bad businesses. We believe that just because you're small doesn't mean you can't also be great. And our mission is to really level a playing field for teams of one out there, whether they're small business owners or entrepreneurs or creatives or freelancers. There's many types of people that are really good at what they do. We serve everyone from life coaches to financial advisors to real estate agents to therapists, along with mom and pop shops on Main Street. But that market, despite being hundreds of millions of people, is drastically underserved. They often don't have the right tools they need to grow, and so it's really exciting, I think, to be working on something that makes a real difference in our customers' lives. I talk to 2 to 3 customers every day. I talk to one right before you. I'm talking to one after you, and it's always exciting not just to hear about how we've helped them produce better content or marketing, but actually how that marketing has helped them grow. And that's ultimately what we want to do. We want to help people make more money from the internet. And we have the technology to do that now. And it's exciting to be in a space where it feels like we're the only ones focusing on these customers. And that's our goal, is to build a tool that's really purpose-built for the types of people you were talking about.
So it's such an important mission. I align with you completely. I actually run an agency that's focused on SMBs as well. And just by pure coincidence, my team came across Blaze and has been playing around with it. And so far, they think it's pretty cool. So Mr. Nathan, if you're out there listening, 2025 is your year.
I will pass this on to them, see if it makes a difference.
So the idea of multi-purposing content, so creating something once and then using it across multiple channels and multiple types of media isn't new. I remember, I think it was a couple of years ago, and Gary Vee went on a rant and telling us that we needed to create 5 to 15 pieces of content a day, which is sounds really daunting unless you're Gary Vee and you have a guy following you around with a video camera all the time. But what's your take on how much content is optimal by platform if you're an SMB?
Well, I think Gary Vee is right in that great marketing isn't about saying 100 things once, but about saying one thing 100 times. And in my career before Blaze, when I was working in marketing at companies like Lyft, we would for years just have content that said rides in minutes. And this was 10 years into Lyft's existence. It was already a multi-billion-dollar company, but still there were so many people out there that hadn't even heard of Lyft before. And so just getting across the basic message of what Lyft did was really important, even beyond broader things like what our brand stood for or other benefits of the service. It was just what is Lyft? And I think that's true for most businesses, that the large majority of people in the world, 99.999%, have never heard of what you do. And so just repeating who you're for, what you're about, why they should use you over and over and over again is so critical to growing awareness and ultimately sales. The problem is it's really boring to do that. It's mind-numbing to create to try and think of different ways of saying the same thing, or taking something that you posted on one platform and posting it on another. And that's where tools like Blaze come in handy. The first step in what we do is help customers create a marketing plan and figure out what to write about, because a lot of our users forget about even generating content. They just don't even know what it should be about. And so we have a bunch of really good wizards that help you think through ideas, and then you can take each of those ideas and generate content from them. And in our tool, we also have a content management system that allows you to schedule and post that content directly from Blaze to social media platforms or blog platforms or email platforms. So everything can be done in Blaze. But that's again, as you were just saying, only part of the process. If you find a piece of content that works well in one place, best practice is to take that content and then syndicate it across other platforms, as well as to repeat it on the same platform. And so to your question on best practices, you should be posting once a day, I think, on most platforms. But within that, it's really about what you're posting. You shouldn't just be posting random stuff. At first, if you don't know what works, yes, you should try lots of different ideas. But what turns marketing from a process into a virtuous cycle of growth is to figure out what of your content performed best with your users or your community, and then to do more like it. And so in Blaze, the last step of our process is to analyze the content, both that you post from Blaze as well as stuff you might post elsewhere, figure out what's really resonating with your community, and then generate more content like it. And so over time, most of the content you're putting out there is stuff that you know is connecting with your audience and ultimately leading to more customers or leads on your website. And I think AI can really help with this kind of busy work piece of figuring out how to replicate or syndicate content, because no one wants to spend their days copying and pasting from LinkedIn over to Instagram, or thinking about how to change an image to something that's slightly a different but similar image. And AI can both do that work in a high quality way, but more importantly, do it in a matter of seconds. And so we have customers in Blaze that schedule a whole month's or even quarter's worth of content in less than 10 minutes, sign off for the quarter, and come back the next quarter. And so it's of course about creating good content, posting consistently. But I think where Blaze can help, if you have those basic motions going, is then to reduce the amount of time it takes you to do that marketing, so you can focus on other things that are important.
Yeah, and when I'm hearing you say as well that when you're creating that content calendar, you're really looking at who your target audience is, and it's easy to jump on the bandwagon of a particular social topic, but we need to think through, if you're a business owner, as to what's going to convert into an actual paying customer and not. So, because I think sometimes people get caught up in the vanity metrics, especially of social media, of, oh, this many people saw my post and I got this, this many likes and comments. Like, well, that's great. Did you get any leads from it? So, there's a lot of social, obviously, that's middle of funnel, that's really out there about branding, but taking into account the, how that content is going to convert is important. And is that something that Blaze can help with?
Yeah, a bit. I'd say, a third of our customers haven't done anything in a channel, so they've never posted on social media. They never
can
sent
only
an
get
email.
better.
They don't have a website. And so for those customers, it's really about like, how do you go from 0 to 1, and just learning the mechanics of getting posting. Just like riding a bike, you need to like learn how the gears work and learn how to pedal and learn how to get your balance. I think the same thing is true for learning a new marketing channel. It's just dipping your toe in the water and jumping in eventually and realizing you float. A third of our customers are doing some stuff on social media, more in the archetype you were painting, of like they're posting some stuff, but they're not seeing any traction from it, and so it feels like a fruitless endeavor, where it's not working. And we spend a lot of time looking at the content our customers are posting beforehand, and yes, much of it is unfocused. It's pictures of their grandchildren or dogs or an American flag. They're talking about holidays, but they're not talking about their products, their services, or who they're for, or the benefits to their customers. And so for those people, it's really about going from 1 to 100 and really helping them start to see results. And you're right that things like impressions could be seen as vanity metrics, but as you mentioned, the funnel, I think you're never going to see any leads or customers if you're first not getting people to engage in your content. So it's a necessary but not sufficient condition to get engagement on your content, to get people to view it, to get people to comment on it, to get people to click through. Once you're there, then you can start to go to the next step in the funnel of, okay, they're clicking on my content. Are they coming to my profile? Are they coming to my website? Okay, if they're coming to my website, are they actually filling in a form or buying a product? And that's ultimately, of course, what you want to measure is, does that initial piece of content lead to more customers or more leads? But I think a lot of 2/3 of our customers are basically in a period before that. And you mentioned kind of audience and strategy. We have really great personalization features in our product that help you develop basically by integrating a social media account or even just giving us access to your files. We can figure out what your product is, who it's for, how you write typically, so your syntax, your audience, your style. If you post already on social media, we can analyze your photos for their vibes. We can pull out your colors, your fonts, your logo. And it's really, really cool. I think it's the killer feature in our product. The reason people stay is because the content Blaze generates looks and sounds like them. But a lot of our customers don't even have that stuff. So it's a challenge for us of, what do we do? How do we help people who have nothing? They have no website. They've never posted on social media. And so we've actually spent a lot of time with those 0 to 1 customers to try and figure out, okay, if you don't even know who your audience is, how do we create a wizard to help you figure that out? And that's where a lot of people, I think, are. And of course, it's a business opportunity for us and for probably folks in the agency space as well. But it's, I I understand the challenges, the tension someone feels of like, hey, this tool sounds great, but I don't even know where to start. And
Yeah.
so we've invested in kind of this what we call marketing plan wizards that basically you just all we need is a sentence about your product, and we can help you think through your audience, your business strategy, key channels for you, and ideas just to get you off the starting blocks a little bit.
No, that's super helpful because you think if you're a Fortune 500 company, you have a brand, you spend a lot of time, you've developed your personas, you have your brand guide, you have like a whole set of documentation that you're going to hand over to somebody who is going to work on your content. But if you're at SMB, you have no clue. So it's really good. It's great. And you've mentioned wizards a couple of times. So without getting overly technical for our audience, could you tell us a bit more about how AI is leveraged on the platform and how it's used for content creation and analytics?
Sure. So if you're listening and you're familiar with ChatGPT, which is basically a chat interface where you talk back and forth essentially to a computer, Blaze is not that. What we tried to do with Blaze is design a product for non-technical people that don't want to talk to their computers all day long. So the core of our platform that you would see is essentially a document editor similar to Google Docs or Microsoft Word for a lot of long form content that we might generate for you, like website copy or scripts for a podcast or blog posts. We also have a visual editor similar to Canva or Figma for social media content and video content and websites. Those are, so the product looks and feels familiar to most folks, and you can actually go in and write a document on your own. You can design a social post on your own. But to create content for you, we've created what we call wizards, which are essentially step-by-step guides based on content type. We have over 200 types of content that you can generate in Blaze that walk you through a series of questions to make sure that the thing you get on the other side is 90 to 95%, maybe hopefully 100%, but we always strike for 95% what you were looking for. And so the wizards are pretty automated. We call them one-click wizards because depending on how much information you've given us in your brand kit or content you've created before, we can basically fill out or use AI to fill out most of the wizard on its own. So most of the time we just need a couple words from you, maybe a sentence. And from there, we can kind of automatically detect what voice you probably want the content in, what source materials we should pull from your Google Drive that you integrated, what content we should look at that you've created in Blaze before that this should be similar to. So we make it really easy to get through that wizard, as I mentioned, in one click if possible. But the wizards are a way to basically help you understand the inputs that the AI will use to generate content for you. We think it's really important for people to have a sense of transparency and control over what the AI is doing, so that if it's not perfect, you can go back and just say, oh, like this was the wrong audience, so I want to switch that, or the prompt, what I wrote was a little wrong, let me adjust that. The problem with, we think, tools like ChatGPT are that you get an output, you have to decide if you like it or not, and then figure out how to debug it if it's not great, and kind of go back and forth until you're happy. That can take a lot of time that our customers don't have. So we've designed a tool that we think is a lot simpler and easier and faster to use.
Yeah. So, I mean, for anyone who's a ChatGPT user, like I think a lot of us are using custom GPTs, but you have to train the GPT the way that you would train, an intern or a new employee, and you have to explain everything to it as to, you are a whatever, and this is your background, and this is the information. I'm going to upload a bunch of stuff. So it sounds like you've gone through a lot of those steps for users so they can just kind of cut to the chase and fill in the blanks. So you're saying, give me your website if you have it, or give me, you mentioned attaching a Google Drive. So it's already grabbing data, and I'm assuming you've already kind of trained it to create the outcome that it needs in order to develop platform for a customer. Is that correct?
Yeah, we call our suite of personalization features Brand Kit. And so essentially you can create multiple brand kits in Blaze if you have different customers or you serve people in different geographies or have different product lines. But the brand kit can pull from a variety of sources you integrate, like your social media accounts or your files. And it creates custom brand voices and styles so that the content that Blaze creates with that brand kit looks and sounds like you. And so we have customers do that the very first thing as the very first step after they get into Blaze. And it makes the content that Blaze creates, I think, just so much higher quality than what you see from ChatGPT, but even other products, because we really we've messed it a lot in making sure that we understand truly who you are, who you're talking to, what your product's about, how you typically convert. And so the output, is much higher quality. But that's ultimately what, when I ask our customers, was this good or not? What it comes down to is like, does this sound like me or does this sound like AI? And we know that to retain our customers, we need it to sound exactly like what they would write on their own.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, when you think there's obviously a lot of press, a lot of research, a lot of, a lot of noise out there regarding AI. Some people are, into it and using it. Some people are just hearing about it. I think there's different camps of people out there, business owners who, some are super excited and can't wait to try every tool on the market and, see what's best. And then some are like, oh no, I don't think AI is going to affect me at all. I don't even want to look at it. But when you look at the product announcements, especially from the LLMs, and you see what a lot of the big SaaS companies are out there doing, like Salesforce and HubSpot, and there's clearly a pretty rapid ascent toward what we're calling kind of autonomous agents and like, so maybe could you talk a little bit about sort of how you see the evolution of AI happening even as short over the next year, and maybe talk a little bit about your perspective on autonomous agents and whether you feel that that's a future feature of the platform and how that comes into play?
Yeah, I mean, I think the branding of autonomous agents is bad. That's not a word you'll ever hear me use or us use in our marketing. But the way that what we've seen our customers say back to us over the last year or so is, I was just talking a lot about ChatGPT, and I mentioned some other tools in there, but our customers have increasingly stopped comparing us to ChatGPT and have started comparing us more and more to hiring another person on their team or hiring an agency or doing it themselves. They're not comparing Blaze to a tool, they're comparing Blaze to a person. And what Blaze is doing for them is essentially acting as a virtual marketer on their team, someone that is better at producing content that converts more, makes more money in a much faster and cheaper way than the alternatives they had before. To give you an example, I talked to a customer just this morning who is actually a podcaster in Texas that uses Blaze to education podcast to generate content promoting his guests. He wasn't ranking at all on Google before Blaze for SEO. Had been putting out blog posts, but his ranking was in the tens of thousands. It was meaningless. And over the last couple months, he's produced 3,000 blog posts with Blaze. Many of them, we have planning tools that can schedule, as I mentioned, months or even quarters worth of blog posts. So he had everything lined up, was posting consistently, and now ranks on the first page of Google, is getting thousands of new leads to his website a month. And the cool thing is not just the effectiveness, obviously, of what Blaze did, but if you calculate the cost per lead, Blaze costs $35 a month. So he could have paid a marketing agency to do this for thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. He could have spent hundreds of hours on his own on nights and weekends trying to figure out how to master SEO, but he's now getting leads to his website for cents on the dollar, literally. And so the effectiveness and the efficiency of Blaze compared to hiring a person is like a 10,000x difference. And so, I think people often think about AI, or maybe the first version was kind of like, how do you automate steps of a process? And certainly if you use like a co-pilot tool that Microsoft is putting into Word or PowerPoint or what you see in Google Docs, like it's kind of making steps of a workflow you have faster. But I think what Blaze does is automate that entire workflow. So rather than you having to go in and do the steps yourself and maybe skip, a couple steps along the way, Blaze can brainstorm, generate, edit, schedule, post, and analyze content for you over a long period of time. And so it's those complex multi-step, multi-action workflows that we're now seeing AI do as well as a human. And I say all this because I don't think, you mentioned the word autonomous before. We think it's really important at Blaze to give our customers a sense of transparency and control over the product. Not because AI is going to go run off and kill us all. Because if it's bad, you need to go in and troubleshoot. You need to figure out what went wrong and how do I make it better? Because it's your business on the line. And if you can't figure that out, then you're not going to use our tool. You're not even going to use AI generally. And so being able to, just like any machine, open it up, see how it works, grease the wheels is really important to getting it to hum efficiently. And so even though you can complete all the steps, from start to finish in Blaze today, You still can go in and kind of see how it's going along the way. And so, that's why I don't love this term autonomous agents, because I don't think that the future is autonomous where humans have no control at all, or no insight to what's happening. And I don't think it's an agent, and then it's not a person. It's still using your ideas. It's still following your instructions, and your preferences. And so, but I think that what is the future is that AI will start to replace work, expensive work, especially that you paid a human to do before. And I think that's exciting for us because at big companies, that means probably firing people, which I don't love as an outcome, or cutting costs, as they say. But for small companies, the people we serve, it's really about the ability to do more than they ever could before. We're not replacing anybody. We are allowing small companies to generate more content, get more leads, make more money than they had time or resources to achieve before. And I think that's why I think the future will see a leveling the playing field where small businesses are able to compete against much bigger businesses in their local markets. A lot of our customers don't want to be Nike or Starbucks. They just want to be the best coffee shop or the best shoe store in their town. And I think AI will allow them to reach their full potential.
Yeah. Well, and you make a really important point about, so it's not like the rise of the machines, right? It's more about, smart humans, smart, knowledgeable humans who, understand the domain. And instead of maybe having a team of 5 other humans working for them, maybe they have, a couple of AI tools that are doing some of the work for them. So they're still leading the orchestra. They're still directing, and they're still QAing and verifying and, giving the output guidance so that they get it the way that they want. So there's still, I think because there's definitely a school of thought that says, well, AI is just going to go and take everybody's job. But then there's another school of thought that I personally think is more realistic, where yes, like I think we can't get away from the fact that AI is going to take some jobs. It will. But it will also make the work of humans so much more efficient and so much better and more consistent, and allow us to test more things and hopefully do more of the fun, creative work and knowledge work just by leveraging these tools. So it's kind of exciting that, if a small business can start to benefit from that before they've got to the point of building up so big that they have multiple people they have to fire, and, processes that are entrenched and all sorts of things that make it really difficult to change.
Yeah, I think that's totally. I think AI will it will displace some work, right? Some work that humans do today will be done by machines essentially, or technology. But that doesn't mean that humans are all going on vacation
Right.
or they'll be out of work. It means the
Sadly.
work that we do will be higher order. Hopefully, it'll be more fun, definitely more creative. And I think past is prologue. If you look at previous waves of industrialization or the advent of new technologies, I think about food a lot, where in the last 50 years we've seen a revolution in processed foods in a good way, where now we all have wide access to healthy and safe foods. We can buy any vegetable we want during any season in our local supermarket just a mile away. That wasn't the case even 50 years ago. But if you look before, we probably had to go out and farm ourselves and pick all our own vegetables and clean them and worry about safety. And it was a lot more work for a lot less impact. Now we can get food delivered to us, to our doors, and then in a matter of minutes you can have a delicious meal. But it means we spend less time doing lower impact activities. We have more time for other things like other hobbies or family. And it's also elevated fine dining. It doesn't mean that we all are automatons eating the same meal every day. We all can cook way more things than we could before. If you look at the explosion of food bloggers and recipe websites, and also the value of Michelin star cuisine, celebrity chefs, people traveling to different countries for a meal, it's elevated human creativity and human input into cooking. So it's moved the curve out and to the right. It got rid of a bunch of the bad stuff that was happening before, but it's only, I think, made the good stuff better. And I think the same thing will happen with how AI affects work.
I agree. I mean, it's like with the advent of the internet, and there was a lot of talk then that it's like, oh my God, it's going to replace everything, and it's going to, totally replace workers and uproot companies. And so companies that didn't figure out how to adapt yes, they didn't fare very well. And but think of how many startups came from the internet age. And that's what I think we're going to see with AI, is there's just going to be so many more startups and more creative ways of doing business. So I think it's a good challenge for all of us to really look at what we're doing and think about what aspects of your work, like creating a bunch of posts, are really repetitive, and then where could you get your knowledge to a higher level? Where could you, like, if we're going to use AI to hyper personalize content and it'll help us with predictive analytics, the human brain can still add a lot of value in that process. So it just allows us to do, I think, higher value work, which is pretty darn exciting.
Yeah, and I think you're right that I think AI, it will change it will change the future of work, but not for everybody. And will give equal access, right? Anybody can go and use Blaze today, but it won't create equal outcomes. And just like any other piece of technology, really ragging on my parents here, but if 40 years after the internet came out, they still don't have a website. 29% of US businesses still don't have a website. It's not just them alone. So there's, even with wide access to something like, as ubiquitous as the internet, there's still a lot of people that haven't taken advantage of the opportunity. There's still people who can't figure out directions on their phone with Google Maps, even though it's an amazing tool. So I think it's a real opportunity for folks, not just to not fall behind, but really get ahead. And I think if you're listening to this podcast, you're already way ahead of most folks out there. And if you can figure out how to use AI to do more, do better than you did before, yeah, I mean, it's both jumping ahead of the competition, but I think from what I hear from our customers, it's really about like fulfilling their own potential. They've taken a bet on themselves as small business owners or entrepreneurs or freelancers or agencies, and this allows them to, it sounds cheesy, but reach their dreams, like build the kind of business they always wanted to build, because they have the ability now to grow in ways they couldn't before.
Yeah, absolutely. It's exciting. Now, on, I don't want to call it the flip side, but there is a weight of responsibility as an AI SaaS platform founder when it comes to privacy and protecting customer data. So how have you approached this challenge at Blaze, and what safeguards would you recommend that other AI-enabled SaaS platforms put in place?
It's a good question. And I don't want to sound glib here, but a lot of our customers are less concerned about, I think, safety and trust than big companies. So for some of our bigger customers, and certainly enterprise corporations out there, this is a huge issue for them because IP is a big part of their enterprise value. And so, having access to models that only use their data, not having their data filter into what other companies are seeing in the public side, that's a huge issue, and a very thorny one. For reasons you can understand, you wouldn't want, an AI that Coca-Cola is using to inadvertently release information to Pepsi if they were also a customer of the same platform. And I think for that reason, adoption of AI inside enterprise companies will take years. Like we're nowhere near wide scale use of AI in big companies because there's all of these trust and safety and legal aspects to work through. And I don't think there's consensus yet. For our customers, though, as I mentioned, many of them don't even have a lot of content. They're not really worried about other people stealing it or like sensitive IP so much as just making more money so that they stay alive and live to fight another day. And so a lot of our customers are less worried about, and I should say here as a disclaimer that the information that you feed to Blaze stays within your workspace. We do not, it stays within Blaze. We don't release it to any third-party AI tools we use. We have a lot of safeguards in place to make sure that your information doesn't get out. But I think the top concern of our customers when it comes to AI is how do we make sure this doesn't sound like AI and sounds more like us? And so we built a bunch of plagiarism checks into the product so that the content that Blaze generates for you, we scan the rest of the internet to make sure that it's not replicated anywhere else, so that the AI that we use is not inadvertently pulling in other people's content. And so we built a bunch of checks to make sure that the content doesn't sound like AI. And that's, I think, the top concern of our customers.
That's it. And that's a big,
that's
a big thing. It's not just a glib moment. Let's go back to Blaze as a company for a minute. So how did you scale, and how important was company culture to scaling?
Very. I mean, I think as a founder, as a CEO, my product, it quote unquote, is my team, because really, you know, if you think about our balance sheet, we don't have any assets really. We don't have an office. We don't have inventory. All we have is our people, and so our people are everything. You know, without great people, the company would be nothing. And so, building a culture that can attract and retain really high quality folks that are aligned with our mission is, yeah, my whole job. And I think our culture. So we've been very intentional and thoughtful about how we build our culture. You know, as I mentioned, we have hundreds of thousands of customers at Blaze, served by a team of 20 people. And this year we'll grow to 30 people, but that's an immense amount of responsibility per person. We have one designer for the whole product. We have 10 engineers. We have 5 or 6 marketers now. We had 3 marketers for most of last year. So we've doubled the size of the marketing team, but you know, we're able to serve a lot of people well with a small team. And we do that by bringing in the right type of people for us, which are people who are extremely competent, thrive on ownership, can deal with ambiguity, are deeply empathetic to our customers, move incredibly fast, want to take a big swing at this moment in their career. And we have built a culture that helps those types of people thrive. And so we have a highly autonomous culture. We're remote. We have 3 standing meetings a day. Besides that, you're on your own. No one's supervising you. I'm not tracking your clicks. But you know, the right type of person thrives in that because they see it not as an opportunity to slack, but to get a lot of stuff done. We're very transparent. Everything is written down. Everybody can search other people's files. We're transparent from the top. So every Friday, I share our business metrics, the good and the bad. People know how much money is in our bank account, how much money we made. And that creates a sense of trust, which high ownership people really thrive on. And so we tried to design a culture that matches the kind of people that we need to build the kind of business we want to build. What I just laid out there is not right for everybody. In fact, it's not right for most people, both as a job and a culture. But I think really high performing cultures tend to be spiky like that, where some people might be listening to me being like, this guy's crazy. Like, I would hate that. Like, I need to be in office. I need a lot of support. I want to talk to my colleagues all day. And that's great for you. Like, absolutely no judgment. But for the kind of business that we are and what we want to build, we actually want a lot of people to say, no, that's not for me, so that the right people look at it and they're like, oh my God, I've been dreaming about a place like this for a long time. And they come here and they feel like they have an opportunity to thrive.
And do you feel that, you know, as Blaze scales, are you confident that that culture will scale with that level of transparency that you've described?
So long as I'm in charge, that will be my priority. You know, I worked at big companies before, and I find a lot of them to be deeply average and mediocre in their performance as a business, as well as the people they attract. And I think if you want to be an exceptional company, you have to deviate from that. And I think the scary thing as you get bigger, of course, we're going to need to hire more people. We're serving millions of customers by the end of this year, as we expect. But the challenge is, as you grow bigger, you know, inherently the average goes down because there's more people, more variance. And so the question for us is like, how do we keep the average really, really high? And how do we keep our quality really, really high? And we spend a lot of time thinking about that. I think a big part for us is removing the performative or political aspects of work from our culture. I think what happens as the companies grow big is that the business starts to work on its own. We call it product market fit in startup land, but it's essentially like, even if everyone were to take off, the company would just keep going on. Like Coke would keep selling Coke, even if no one's doing any marketing or sales, because the product is so great for the people who buy it. And that means that the people in the company, their work becomes less connected, even disconnected from impact. And so what people start to care more about, what starts to change their compensation is not, hey, did my work today lead to more revenue for the company, but instead, like, did my work today impress my boss such that I get more budget or more team? And that's where you see politics and how people talk in meetings and what I call performance work come much more into play and almost replace or displace real work. And that's when I think you see companies, for a while, when companies become super political or performative that way, the product can surf along for a while, but ultimately, if you're not talking to your customers and serving them, someone will come and take those customers from you disruptively, or the product will get slowly worse over time and no one will notice. And the company will eventually die. And there's a ton of zombie companies out there. both tech and non-tech companies. And, that would be such a failure for me to witness. So I think the way that we prevent that is by keeping our team small. Forces us to make really intentional decisions about what we work on. Everybody needs to be bought into those decisions, which means everybody needs to understand what our customers want and what they need at any moment in time. And so keeping that cycle tight of we're clear on what we work on, the team understands it, everyone feels an impact to their work, everyone takes the work seriously, we produce great work, and then everyone gets rewarded both through their cash and equity compensation for the work. I mean, as long as we can keep that loop really, really tight, even as we grow, I think we'll be fine.
No, good. Having spent 20 something years in corporate America, what you were describing is the culture that we don't want to build. I completely resonate with that. So a couple final questions. So one is, I'm curious, you've been in business for like a little over a year. So pretty successful year. At what point in your journey did you feel like, okay, we've hit something? I know you talked about product market fit. So when did you start to see growth, and when did you feel like, okay, this is a good one, this is a winner?
Oh, it's a great question. Well, I laugh because it doesn't feel like a winner yet. I mean, we certainly we've de-risked the business significantly. Over the last year, I think more than our team probably realizes. We probably won't, knock on wood, but it's the probability of us dying is as small as it ever has been. And I feel really grateful to be there. But we're also just really neurotic about all the ways we can die. We're constantly thinking about what we're missing or what's going wrong. And at a high growth company, it is a mistake to think. I used to actually think this way. I used to think, oh, as soon as we get product market fit, it's going to be easy. Then we just grow up and to the right. And the reality is more like seeing a rocket take off, where from the ground it looks kind of straight up and going really fast and accelerating, but inside the rocket, the movie show, everything is shaking and it feels like it's going to fall apart in a ball of fire. And that's what it actually feels like here. It is a mistake to judge yourself for the fact that there are problems. There's always a problem, especially when there's that much pressure on a system because of the strain of growth it's under. And the success actually comes from the rate at which you're able to identify where the problem is, diagnose the root cause, brainstorm and implement solutions, and then scale them. And once you do that in one area, the problem then moves somewhere else. You fix a plate up here, and then the pressure down, then there's water issues down here. And so this constantly happens where, just to give you an example, we grew by the fastest we've ever grown in December, top of funnel. We brought in over $1 million in revenue in 1 month, which is crazy. Really, really amazing that that happened. And our focus today, because it's the start of January, is okay, well, now that we have all these new users, how do we not lose them? And so now we're very focused on activating and converting those users from trial customers into paid customers. And then after that, our focus will be, how do we make those month 1 customers, month 2 customers? And then I'm sure at some point we'll be focused so much on retention that we'll be like, oh my God, we forgot about top of funnel. We'll have to go back to, okay, how do we grow faster again? And that's just one part of the business. So we're always, at least it never feels secure. I don't expect it ever will be. I think I'm only probably being too harsh on myself if I were to expect a reality to be that it's easy at any point. It just gets harder. And I think this is true, if you listen to the Elons of the world or the Sergey and Larry's, they all explain it this way, that the oxygen just gets thinner as you move up the mountain. There's fewer people who have ever been at that elevation. And, doing that for 5 or 10 years is a success in and of itself, just getting a business to that point. And I'm sure that's not, I probably wouldn't want to hear that from me if 2 years ago. I'm sure a lot of people don't believe me. But I think, yeah, it's the success is just putting one foot in front of the other every day and trying to get better at what we do, and maintaining my energy and motivation through it all so that I don't get burned out along the way. Because it doesn't get, I think the reason I talk to customers every day is because that helps me stop and realize what we built. Because yeah, I'm always just looking at the problems. As CEO, I only get the worst problems. The easy stuff, the stuff that's working, never even touches my desk. So it's important to stop and actually be like, oh wow, we built something here that is really good. and is helping people. And it's not all the bad stuff, but yeah, there's a lot of impact and obviously success that we've achieved along the way.
I always feel like being a founder is a little bit like a game of whack-a-mole. You're always trying to, one
Absolutely.
pops up and you get that one and another one pops up. So, so where do you see Blaze going in the
Yeah.
next year? What do we expect?
Yeah, this idea has emerged that you'll start to see in more of our marketing of not being a marketing tool, being a virtual marketer. And I think being an alternative, not just to ChatGPT, but to someone you might hire on your team to do marketing is really the vision that the product vision we want to build towards. And just doing that across text, image, and video, across all social media platforms, along with blogs and newsletters and ads and websites, is a huge amount of product surface area. And the cool thing about being in our space is that there's always more to build, because we're just building tools for the human mind. And so there's always more creativity that we can help people express, always new ways of showing, bringing an idea to life. And so I don't think we'll ever run out of stuff to build. There'll always be more. Our customers will always be asking for bigger and better and cooler features. And so there's never done. I think the exciting thing for us is to start to track not just what our product does and the amount of money we make, but also the impact we have on customers. I brought this up several times because it really what drives me, keeps me excited to get out of bed every morning. But we've seen this shift not just in our impact, not just in the amount of hours we save customers, which is kind of the immediate impact you get in the first minute of using the product. We track that in the product. We show you how many hours we save you. It's something you experience quickly, but now being around for a little bit of time, actually showing how much money we're making customers through the content that we help them produce. And so really, I think the output people buy with Blaze is great content, but the outcome is more growth, more revenue, more sales. And so as we have more visibility into what our customers are doing, have longer relationships with them, seeing actually how much more money we can help them make is really exciting. And that's what we want to focus on. I would love to see the first millionaire that we helped create come from Blaze this year. Our goal over time is to create many, many more millionaires from the internet. Those, to be able to do that for a small team, even a team of one, is incredibly exciting. And I think we'll hit it so hopefully this year, but I think sometime soon. And I think that's it's an exciting future to be part of.
Great. So, Adam, where would you like people to reach out to learn more about Blaze, and where would they like to connect with you?
Yeah, well, I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter. All the content you see there is actually generated as a first draft in Blaze, so you can see what Blaze is able to help someone do. We also, obviously, you can check out the product for free at blaze.ai, but we have a ton of free resources as well. We have a really big community for small business owners and entrepreneurs, where it's not just about Blaze, but people helping people on tips and tricks to grow faster. We have a ton of resources and videos about small business growth. Our goal is to be like the #1 free place on the internet to figure out how to grow as a small business, whether or not you're a customer. So would love everyone to check out our tool, but even if you're just out there listening to this podcast thinking, how do I connect with other people like me? I would encourage you to join our community at Blaze and hopefully meet some people who can help you.
That sounds amazing. Well, listen, thank you, Adam, so much for joining me today. You shared so much value for our listeners. I'm sure they're going to get a lot out of the episode, and look forward to following you in your journey.
Thanks for having me.